All right. Welcome. I'm trying out evenings. I'm going to see how well these work. If more people are able to engage, we've had a great time learning and growing with you all. Talking about the gifts of the Spirit last month. But now we're diving into something else because as we were reading our word, we saw that there was something that was even greater than gifts of healings, even greater than prophecy, speaking in tongues, interpretation of tongues, greater than discerning of spirits, even greater than working of miracles. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Are you kind of curious? I would be if I was listening to this. Okay, so I'm just bringing you through the journey that I took on discovering this because it was super, super fun. So we're going to start off. Check out this scripture. And for those of you who don't know, this is some of the things that we taught in Root Bible Academy this week that the different Root coaches are teaching. And so parents, this is amazing because this is going to help you be able to continue the spiritual conversation at home. And we're going to go into more depth here than we did in the class so that you'll be able to continue the spiritual growth at home. And hopefully by the end of this, we're going to give you some cool tips on how to make this real in the home. All right. Sounds like I choked there for a sec, didn't it? Anyway, so let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 31. Chapter 12 is all about the gifts of the Spirit, what they are, how they work, all that kind of stuff, right? And so this is the last verse in that chapter. But you should truly want to have the greater gifts. And now I will show you the best way of all. I love that. Piques your interest, right? You're like, okay, what is the best way of all? Well, some of you are already figuring it out. You see, the Bible wasn't written in chapter and verse. This is a letter to the Corinthians, right? And so when I write a letter, I don't start off my letters chapter 1, verse 1. Hi, how are you? Verse 2. Everything is going great here. Verse 3. Like that'd be awkward. That'd be really kind of weird. But the verses and the chapters, all that division within each letter came afterwards to help people be able to easily communicate and share what God was saying or doing through the scriptures. Does that make sense? So now you don't say, hey, go to the 427th word in let's say the epistle of Paul to the Corinthians. You don't do that. It would be really long for everybody to figure out what you're talking about. Instead, when we have chapter and verse, now we can all easily, more quickly arrive to the same spot and look at it in our own words. So just backstory. So the point of all that is 1 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 31 was never meant to be separated from 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And now I know all you are like, love? Yes, it's the love chapter. It is. And so check this out. I'm just going to read the first couple of verses. You all have heard verses 4 through 8 a ton. It's almost every wedding. They say it all the time. You hear this from the pulpit. Every Valentine's Day, it's always being shared. A lot of times during Easter, you hear something like this or along these lines. But let me read the first two verses. These aren't shared as much. It says, I may speak in different languages of people or even angels, but if I do not have love, I am only a noisy bell or crashing cymbal. I may have the gift of prophecy. I may understand all the secret things of God and have all knowledge. And I may have faith so great I can move mountains. But even with all these things, if I do not have love, then I am nothing. How crazy is that? Can you imagine? Just put yourself in the shoes of a person who was able to speak all the languages of people and even angels. They were able to say what God is saying. That's the gift of prophecy. Simply, that's what we teach in Root Bible Academy. It's saying what God is saying. And we'll check out this part. If I can understand all secret things of God and have all knowledge. and think, that sounds pretty awesome. I would love to get to that level. Wouldn't that be fun? Even though that seems totally improbable, implausible that I could ever get to the place where I could say, I have all knowledge and I know all the secret things of God. And yet, Paul is saying, even if that were true of someone and they didn't have love, then it would be worthless. Or like he says in this translation, that's New Century Version, because I found that's easier for the kids. New Century Version says, then I am nothing. How crazy is that? It blows my mind. And let me pause for a second. This does not mean that Paul is saying, get rid of all the gifts. They're pointless. They're useless. That's not what he's saying. He's saying if you have those without love, then it's pointless. Because what are you going to be doing? You're going to be sharing things maliciously. I know this never happens in church, but there could be the potential that someone could know the truth and share it in a way that didn't bring life, but more brought death or condemnation, made you feel bad, made themselves look amazing and you as not so much. I know that wouldn't happen in the church, but that would be someone who has the gifts and is operating outside of love. Now, don't go up to that person and say, hey, the Bible says you are worthless. Don't do that. That would be a temptation, but don't do that. Don't give into that, because that would not be done in love either, all right? So, how do I know that he's not saying that these are worthless? Well, if you look at the end of the chapter, it says that some of the gifts may fail, but love won't. And then it goes even to knowledge will fail, knowledge will come to an end, but love won't. So until knowledge comes to an end, the gifts shouldn't come to an end in our lives also. So unless you came to the place where all knowledge is gone, then yeah, you don't have to love. But I don't know how that would work, unless I'm not even going there. So love is the key. And I would actually say love is the key actually to the fruit of the Spirit. Because if you look in those verses of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4 through 8, a lot of the other, I almost said gifts of the Spirit because we've been talking about that so much. The fruit of the Spirit is reflected in those verses. I mean, think about it. Love is patient. Love is kind. That's two of them right off the bat, right away. Two other fruits. So love is really the gateway to you walking in and experiencing the rest of the fruit. And I don't know about you. I want to get to the place where I can enjoy perfect peace all the time, or I can enjoy overflowing joy no matter the circumstances. And we're going to figure out how we can do that. And let me tell you this, it's way easier than you think when you understand God's definition for these things. Too often we pursue these as defining them the way the world does, and so then we're using the world's tactics to achieve the world's level of or status or their how they would define something, which is not God's way. And so when we're trying to achieve something that never was God's plan for our life, and we're getting stressed out or frustrated because we're not seeing the fruit of the Spirit in our life, we're not seeing God's abundant life in happening for us, and we just get more frustrated and annoyed that everything seems to be failing. It may be that our definitions of success, our definitions even of the fruit of the Spirit, could be skewed by the culture that we're in. That's why we're going through this course, and I think it's really going to help you all find some freedom. And I know for sure those parents that are watching, this is going to help you bring your kids into a new level of freedom and of rest and ability to flow with God and enjoy a sweet relationship with Him when they realize how much the pressure is off of them to achieve these things. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So, how long am I going? Oh man, I just have so much I want to share with you. So how can I do this? So fruit of the Spirit, that's where we're headed. How can we know if we have it? Let's leave off with there. How can we know if we or our kids have the fruit of the Spirit in their life? What makes it different? Let's take love, for example, because that's what we were just talking about. How do we know that the love that we're operating in is actually the fruit of the Spirit and not just what the world would call love and how they would treat others? Because I'm not saying they don't love. In English, the toughest part is English, we have one word for love, right? In Greek, we all know there's multiple. You have the eros, you have the phileo, you have the agape, you have the different, four different words for love. In Hebrew, maybe it's 7. I should have looked that up now. I know, I'm super curious. How many? If you know, comment on this video. I want to see how many words, and then tell me what those words are, because that would be amazing. In Hebrew, did you know there's over 10, or at least 10 words for love? It is. There are, it's super fun. So when we talk about love, our definitions can get blended, because we talk about loving our wife, we love hamburgers, and we love, well, I said wife, hamburgers, and we love our friends. Well, hopefully all those are fairly different kinds of love, where in Hebrew and Greek it dissects that a little bit more. And so how do you know? Let's get back to the question. How do you know if you're operating in the fruit of the Spirit version of love, or are you operating in the world's kind of love? Well, Jesus tells us pretty plainly in Matthew chapter 7, verse 16. It says this: you can identify them by their fruit. That is, by the way they act. That's pretty plain. And he talks about you can't pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles, that kind of stuff. But we'll just stop with, you can tell them by the fruit. That is, by the way they act. Do you find that yourself or your kids, let's talk about patience, for example. They're patient for a while, and then you can see them get into that point where they're about ready to blow, or you feel that way. You're trying so hard to be patient, and you're working with your kids, and they're not listening, that you can tell they're not paying attention, but they're asking you for your help, and you're like, what is going on? Just listen for a half second. Think about what you're saying. Think about what I'm saying, and we can figure out this problem. I don't just want to tell you the answer. I want to help you arrive to the answer on your own, so that you actually know it, so that you can apply these things. I'm not saying that ever happens with parents. You can feel that start to bubble up at times, right? If you are bubbling up and you're hitting that max, guess what? That is the world's version of peace, of patience, of love. If it ever has a max, it's not God's version. That's crazy. That's hard, right? But think about, if God is love, is there ever an end to that we could experience in our human environment and our human engagements? No, his love is so much bigger. Guess what? It's the same with his peace and with his presence, with his patience, with his goodness, with his self-control. So we need to figure out how we can tap into that. And it's easy to decide from our actions. How did you act today? What were the choices that you made today as we're wrapping up the day? Or maybe you're watching this in the morning. How did you yesterday? How were your choices? Did you find that you were hitting a limit on some of these things that are the fruit of the Spirit? Or did you find that they were gushing out regardless of how you were being treated, regardless of how you felt even? We're going to get into that a little bit tomorrow, but one of the God definitions of fruit of the Spirit has a big part of it is not having to do with feelings or another person. It's purely dependent on God himself, who doesn't change and is so overabundant that we could never reach an end to what he has to flow through us. So if we ever find that our love or our patience or our self-control has limits, it's not the fruit of the Spirit. If we ever find that it's dependent on somebody else, that's not the fruit of the Spirit. If we ever find that it's dependent on our own emotions or our own circumstances, the situations going on around us, it's not the fruit of the Spirit. So how do we begin to develop this fruit of the Spirit? That's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Oh, you're going to have to join me tomorrow. We're going to do it. It's going to be awesome. It'll be a quick one tomorrow. I want to keep it quick because tomorrow is actually our family day. So I'm gonna make it quick. But yeah, anyway. So I will see you tomorrow. I'll give you that little hint or that little teaser. That's what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. As for me, I got to let you go. If you're not enrolled in Root Bible Academy or kids aren't enrolled, it's a whole family thing. So it's easy to join and get everybody signed up. There's classes for preschoolers. There's classes for elementary kids, for junior hires, for senior hires. It couldn't be, well, it could be a little easier, and we're actually working on that. But this allows everybody to be learning on the same subjects, and these trainings we're doing here even partner with that so that you're able to lead your kids spiritually. And there's a bunch of more additional tools, links, all kinds of stuff that are available for the parents that have their family enrolled in Root Bible Academy. So check it out. It's only $12 right now to enroll, and there's no contracts. You can cancel at any time. So I can't imagine a sweeter deal for your whole family to walk into spiritual growth together. That's priceless to me. And it's only $12. So, all right. If you have questions on this, message us on Facebook or on YouTube. We'd love to connect with you and help get you set up. Or if you have questions about any of this, we would love to hear from you. But I gotta let you go. All right. See you, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Bye.